The threat of Steph Curry as a shooter coming off of an on or off ball screen is still so substantial that it breaks defenses and creates countless advantages for his teammates to benefit from. Let's start with the simple fact that the fear of Steph in these situations is legitimate. These coaches are scared for a reason. These players are scared for a reason. Here are 3 basic stats that demonstrate this fact. First, you simply cannot leave Steph open. On unguarded catch and shoot threes last year, he shot 52%, made more than half of them. That's more than 1.5 points per shot. You cannot leave him open. Secondly, you have to play up on his shot when he's dribbling. He was the best pull-up jump shooter in the NBA last year. He was the only player in the entire NBA last year to attempt at least 500 shots off the dribble and to get over 1.1 points per attempt on them. 13 players attempted that many. The other 12 were below 1.1 points per attempt. So when he's dribbling, you got to be up on the shot. And then lastly, when it comes to off-ball screens or dribble handoffs, anything that has Steph running into the ball, you simply have to have someone meet him on the other side. If you let him come off free and clear and shoot, it's going to go poorly for you. On both dribble handoffs and off-screen possessions last year, Steph shot 44% from 3. On off-screen plays in particular, he was by far the best player in the league. He made 109 shots coming off of off-ball screens. That was 21 more than Devin Booker in second place. And he was far and away the most efficient. There were 18 players that logged at least 100 possessions shooting off of off-ball screens. Steph was the only player to log over a 1.2 offensive rating. He was at 1.22. Second place was Jokic at 1.17. 5 points better than the second best player in the field per 100 shots. Again, if you let Steph come off of an off-ball screen and shoot, it was a 122 offensive rating. So yeah, Steph's overall scoring numbers weren't as impressive over the last couple of years. Why? Because he was surrounded by extremely limited offensive talent, which forced him to take a lot of really difficult shots and to do it against some pretty absurd defensive coverages. But the problem for defenses persists. If you leave Steph open, he's going to hit more than half of his threes. If you give Steph space when he's dribbling, he's the best pull-up shooter in the NBA. And if you let him come clean off of a dribble handoff or a wide pin down, he's literally going to hit 44% of his threes. So what does that mean? It means that NBA coaches don't give a shit about what his basketball reference page says. It means NBA players who have to guard him don't give a shit what his basketball reference page says. They know how good Steph Curry is, and they always account for him. When he catches at the three-point line, they panic chase him off the line. When he's dribbling, they play up on the shot aggressively. Those two things allow him to generate a ton of dribble penetration as those defenders go past him. They make mistakes on switches because they never want to leave him open, which leaves countless openings on the other side when the other guy is wide open. And then every time he comes off of an on or off ball screen of any type, there's always the big or whoever it is meeting him on the other side because they cannot allow him to come off free and clear because he's going to hit 44% of those threes. And so as a result, they generate countless 4-on-3 advantages on the back end. So yeah, Steph didn't reach the same individual ceiling he did in years past statistically. But he was still one of the very best advantage creators in the entire NBA last year. And the proof is in the numbers. According to Cleaning the Glass, which just filters out garbage time, the Warriors with Steph Curry on the floor last year logged a 120 offensive rating. That group, Podziemski, Wiggins, Moody, Jimmy Butler for a third of the year, Buddy Hield, 120 offensive rating. They were 13 points per 100 possessions worse on offense when Steph stepped off the floor. So to put it very simply, just the threat of Steph's shooting, even when he's not producing at a super high level individually, is enough to make a mediocre group of offensive players an elite offense in the NBA. Again, just for perspective, the Cavs had the number one offense in the NBA last year at a 121 offensive rating. Steph on the floor, according to Cleaning the Glass, 120. By the way, we talked about this in the intro, but the failure to understand this very simple concept is what led to Steph being so underrated for most of his prime. You want to know why Steph didn't win finals MVP or even receive a single vote in 2015? You want to know why everyone thought KD was better than him when they were together? You want to know why Damian Lillard and so many others thought the Warriors were just going to fall apart after KD left? You want to know why it took the 2022 title for people to properly respect Steph? And you want to know why so many people are going to hate this ranking and view him as less than what he is to this day? It was this concept. This idea of Steph running off of screens, running off of on and off ball screens, and the threat of his shooting, creating all of these openings and people being unable to see it. People literally watched Steph draw two to the ball over and over again at the end of the 2015 finals. But because Andre Iguodala was the beneficiary with wide open corner threes and cutting dunks, he won finals MVP. That's how much it broke people's brains. It became a buzzword, right? Gravity. So much so that I think it almost became something that people made fun of Warriors fans for. But it is the reality of what it's like to play basketball on the same team as Steph Curry. Time and time again, year after year, people saw the Warriors play basketball and they couldn't see what he was doing to make things work for their offense. Even in the KD years. In 2017, when Steph was on the floor and KD was off, they had a 119 offensive rating, which was incredible for that era. When KD was on the floor and Steph was off, 109 offensive rating, a 10-point difference. There's a 9-point difference in 2018. Look, I think Steph fans get carried away when they start trying to stack him up against LeBron and trying to say that he's better than LeBron. But they aren't far off in their assessment of him. I think he's the 5th best perimeter player of all time. I think he's the 2nd best offensive engine I've ever seen behind Nikola Jokic. And frankly, I just don't understand why so many people have struggled to see it over the years. Steph always also provides you with a great deal of team building flexibility. Without Steph on the floor this year, I should say, if you take Steph's threes out of the equation, the Warriors shot 953 for 2,691 from three. That was 35%. Which is already not very good under any circumstances before you factor in that most of those threes were essentially conceded by the defense as they overplayed Steph and tried to force guys like Draymond and Brandon Pajemski to shoot and knock down threes, right? How do you get away with having that level of shooting and still post a 120 offensive rating when Steph's on the floor? It's because of his ability to invert spacing. Him constantly pulling bigs out to the perimeter as they had to show on screens created 4-on-3s without rim protectors. That allowed Golden State's management to focus on loading up on smart athletes that can defend rather than needing shooters. Now, to be clear, if they want to reach championship ceiling, I think they're going to need to add more shooting. That's why I'm stoked about them potentially adding Al Horford. It's why it'd be great if they could get some shooting talent back in a Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade. But the amount of shooting they need is less than most teams need because of this unique dynamic that Steph creates. Again, we talked about it earlier, but like he created a role on offense that Draymond can thrive in. There are many teams in this league that Draymond could immediately make better on defense, but there aren't too many teams in this league that he could be a functioning part of offensively. Not the case in Golden State. He's been wonderful there because of that inverted spacing dynamic we're talking about. Now, one last caveat with Steph before we kind of get into closing things up today. There is a big difference between Steph when he's being an offensive engine versus when he's being an offensive engine that is also hanging 27 points per game on 66% true shooting. The Warriors' offense last year even just looking from before Jimmy joined the team to after Jimmy joined the team when Steph went up a level, the Warriors offense was 4 points better per 100 possessions in that stretch after February 8th than it was the entire season before that. So as we look at next season, one of the biggest swing factors for Steph and the Warriors in terms of the level of success they will reach and how much of a chance they have to compete for the title, it's going to come down to what version of Steph are we getting? Are we getting 22 point per game, 59% true shooting Steph, or are we getting 27 point per game, 65% true shooting Steph? That's going to be a big swing factor. The threat of Steph shooting is enough to make any offense good. But it will take the threat of Steph shooting and him managing to hit high volume and efficiency numbers as an individual for them to hoist the trophy this year, if that's their ultimate goal. Just something to keep an eye on. I just view Steph as a player that is far more valuable than his box score production would lead you to believe.